Jack lay in bed, his skin pale, his breath soft and shallow. The fever had kept him up for days, and finally exhaustion won. His body surrendered to sleep, but it wasn't restful. Next to him sat Tien, eyes weary but focused, reading a book aloud in a quiet voice. She knew he probably couldn't hear her, not fully, but the cadence of her voice might calm his restless mind. As the pages turned, Tien's voice softened further. She glanced at him. He was asleep. Carefully, she closed the book and watched him for a moment, noting the faint flush in his cheeks, the sweat on his brow. "He's been trying too hard," she whispered to herself. "If only I could help more." That night, Tien stayed by his side, curled up on a chair in the corner. She didn't plan to fall asleep, but care often slips quietly into fatigue. When Jack opened his eyes the next morning, the first thing he saw wasn't the ceiling or the light through the curtains. It was her, asleep in the chair, head tilted, arms folded tightly across her chest. The house was silent except for the occasional rustle of sheets. Jack was still resting, so Tien moved gently, quietly, slipping downstairs to prepare for the day. She wasn't sure how well he had slept or how long the fever would linger, but she knew one thing: he needed nourishment, and not just the kind from rest. So she made a decision. She'd go to the market. She wrapped herself in a simple coat, tied her hair back, and left with the grocery list forming in her head. Chicken for herbal stew, black beans for cooling tea, and a few herbs she remembered her grandmother once using when someone had a fever. At the market, she moved quickly with purpose. "How much is this chicken?" she asked one vendor. "Do you have mugwort?" she asked another. Every step, every purchase was a small act of care. Even when she had to bargain, even when her arms were heavy with bags, her mind was focused only on one thing. He needs to eat something warm, something healing. By the time she returned, the kitchen filled with the smell of boiled herbs, ginger, and black bean tea. She didn't consider herself a cook, but today wasn't about culinary skill. It was about intention. It was about love. While Jack was upstairs, still wrapped in dreams or rest, Tien's phone buzzed. It was a call about a land transaction she'd been involved in, a piece of paperwork she had almost forgotten about. The voice on the other end spoke quickly. Everything was ready. She just needed to come by and sign. Timing was delicate. She didn't want to leave Jack alone too long, but responsibility didn't wait for the perfect moment. With a soft sigh, she reassured herself that he'd be okay for a short while. She left, took care of the paperwork, then continued shopping for the remaining ingredients. Meanwhile, Jack had a conversation of his own, one with his mother. Her voice came through the phone, worried and warm. "Have you eaten yet?" she asked. "Are you feeling better?" He tried to reassure her, as sons often do, even when they shouldn't. In two separate places, these two people, Jack and Tien, both carried weight they didn't want to share. Jack hid how bad he still felt, and Tien carried quiet worry behind each errand, both navigating their own responsibilities, both thinking of the other. Even though Jack wasn't fully recovered, he decided to head to the farm construction site. The fever had broken slightly, and he convinced himself he could manage. After all, the work wasn't going to wait. And truthfully, he felt a certain restlessness, a desire to push through the weakness and get things moving again. At the site, the sun beat down hard. Jack walked slowly, checking progress, giving directions. Then he noticed an older man, one of the villagers, laboring to move dirt and help flatten the ground. "Bakoi," Jack called gently. "Why are you working in this heat?" The older man wiped his brow. "It's just some extra money," he replied. "I don't have much to do these days." Jack saw through that. The man's hands trembled slightly from effort. His frame was thin, his clothes worn. Jack walked closer. "This job isn't for you," he said softly. "It's too hard. Let me find something else, something safer. Just help me look after the farm." The man paused, his eyes softened. Then, unexpectedly, he spoke about his life. A son who had disappointed him, a family that fell apart, the burden of old age mixed with loneliness. It was rare for men like him to open up, but Jack listened. He didn't judge. "If only my son was like you," the man whispered. Jack didn't know how to respond. Instead, he offered what he could, a promise of meaningful work, a safe place to stay, and the kind of quiet dignity that every person, no matter their age, deserves. Tien returned home carrying the groceries, expecting to find Jack still asleep. but his bed was empty. Her heart raced. She called his name, searched each room, until finally she picked up her phone and dialed. "I'm at the farm," Jack answered, his voice calm but clearly strained. "I just needed to check on something. I'll be back soon." Moments later he returned, and something was wrong. He looked pale, unsteady. Sweat poured down his face. As soon as he stepped inside, he staggered and nearly fell. Tien rushed to him, helping him sit down as his body trembled. His mother appeared, equally alarmed. Together they guided Jack into the room and laid him down again. The cool cloths, the whispered encouragement, the urgent debate about calling a doctor. It was a scene stitched with panic and care. Jack insisted he was fine, just a little dizzy, but the worry in Tien's eyes said otherwise. She stayed beside him, her hands not leaving his for a moment. She wiped his forehead, offered him water, gently urged him to eat. All the while, her own heart was racing with fear, but she didn't let it show. As Jack lay resting, Tien went back to the kitchen. The chicken had simmered long enough. The aroma of herbs filled the house. This wasn't just a meal. It was medicine. It was a message. She carefully ladled the hot broth into bowls, added the tender chicken, and brought it to him. "Just a few bites," she urged gently. "You need your strength." Jack looked at the food, then at her. He understood. This was more than care. It was love, unspoken but unmistakable. His mother sat nearby watching, smiling softly. "She got up early just for you," she whispered to Jack. "She didn't need anything herself. Everything she's done today, it's all been for you." Jack felt his throat tighten. He wasn't used to being the one cared for. He was always the strong one, the provider, the problem solver. But now, in his weakness, he saw something he hadn't allowed himself to admit before. He needed this. He needed her. He took a spoonful, then another. The warmth of the stew seemed to ease not just his body, but something deeper. His heart, his worry, his pride. After the meal, Tien sat beside Jack again. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. Her presence was steady, grounding. She handed him a glass of black bean water, gently reminded him to take his medicine. Jack looked at her, eyes tired but clearer now. "You didn't have to do all this," he murmured. "I know," she said simply, "but I wanted to." And that was it. In that quiet moment, no confessions were made, no dramatic declarations spoken aloud. But something shifted. The invisible barrier between them softened. Jack understood that he wasn't alone in this life, in his struggles. Tien had chosen to be here, not because she had to, but because she cared. As he drifted back to sleep, he felt it, not just the comfort of a full stomach or the cool touch of a cloth on his forehead, but the warmth of something deeper. A connection, a commitment, a kind of quiet love that needed no words.